Hi guys, how are you? Today we're going to continue with Origin of Species Part 2. In this part, we're going to talk about speciation. Speciation is the formation of new species, okay? We already saw something about this in the last class, about how the formation of new species is developed, okay? So speciation is the formation of new species when populations of species become isolated. What is isolated? That they are separated or they are in other part and they are separated by different things, okay? I'm going to explain that in the following slides. And what happened after that isolation? They evolve, so they change and form other populations. So for example, we have the founder species of the common ancestor. In this case, we have this finch. So this is related to the finches, right? The peak of the finches, as you can see. So we have different peaks depending of the food that they are going to consume. For example, they need this large peak to consume nectar. This kind of species needs another form because it's similar to this one because they're following and they're looking for nectar. This one nectar and insects. This one insects, and this one needs a bigger one because it's going to consume seeds, insects, and bird eggs. So depending on the finch, they are the same, right? But they have changed and evolved over time, over a long period of time because of their necessities. So we already know who's Darwin. We studied that the last class. So he studied 13 species of finches on Galapagos Islands. As you can see here, we have a map of Galapagos Islands. He looked at the big size and shape, and he found that the stoat is like bigger, was for eating seeds, like this one, okay? Eating seeds. So that is a stoat that is bigger, wider. Short and sharp beaks for eating insects, and woodkeeper like beak for eating insects from trees, but instead for a long tube, it uses a cactus spine held in its beak to remove its prey. So it's different, right? All the physical characteristics of the beaks differ because they have different necessities. Then we have this is again a study with the finches. This is called adaptive radiation in Galapagos finches. This process is called like that because it's divergent. What is that? That they are in different parts of these islands, and that's why they need to adapt. Okay, so we have many different finches. They have like as you can see, there are Camarinchus pauper, Camarinchus parvulus, Camarinchus. So they have this. They are from the same species but with a different genera. Okay, and that's why they have different peaks and different colors and different phenotypical characteristics. When I say phenotypical characteristic, is a physical characteristic that this bird has developed to survive. Okay, so as you can see, they have different sizes and everything and colors. But in this case, we have the same species, right? But occasionally, unrelated species develop similar characteristics due to similar selection pressures. This is convergent evolution. So what is convergent evolution? When we have different species that have developed to develop similar characteristics due to similar selection pressure. What is a selection pressure? So the activity, that the role that they have to develop, right? In this case, they need to fly. So we have bat wing, as you can see, all the bones that are forming this structure. We have a bird wing, as you can see, they have similarities, right? And then we have the insect wing. They support the insect wings are not homologous with the bones of bat and bird wings. So they have the similar function. The species need these parts of the body to fly, but in this case we don't have an homologous. Homologous means homologous that they have some similarities. These ones they have similarities, right? As you can see. So, Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection comes down to the following points. The fittest are the best adapted organisms are going to survive. The survivors reproduce and pass on their adaptive genes to the next generation. So the genes that were stronger, that are going to be preserved, they're going to pass to the next generation. Over time, the population's gene pool, when I say gene pool, are all the genes that are forming this species, changes and a new species emerge. But we need millions or thousands of generations to that to happen. Thousands of generations and millions of years, okay? So we have that depending of the animal, we have sexual reproduction results in genetic variation because we're crossing different species that are changing their genes, okay? So the struggle for survival, if they adapt, they're going to survive. If they don't face many problems like competition, predation, climatic conditions that are the problems that can affect an organisms, then genetic variation happens because they need to adapt. And some characteristics are more favorable in helping an individual to survive. After that, survival of the fittest. So the organism with the best characteristics and better adapted to the new environment are going to survive and breed. Okay, they're going to reproduce. And those favorable characteristics are going to be passed on future generations and become more common. Individuals with less favorable characteristics may not survive or breed. They are going to die. In this example, this animal cannot survive and this predator is going to consume it. Okay? And now we have a new definition, isolation of populations. Isolation. So, isolation of populations can be caused by the environmental changes, forming barriers. When I say environmental changes are changes that are happening in the habitat, forming barriers such as mountain formation, changes in rivers, sea level change, climatic change, or plate movements. Those are causes to provoke isolation, okay? So isolation is carried out because of the mountain formation, changes in rivers, and that's it, okay? So, if we have a gene flow, again, when I say gene flow is the amount of genes that we have in an organisms and how they change between the two subpopulations is prevented new species may evolve. So we have the same, this fish was a single species years ago, and what happened with that fish? Population of Anisometrus, this is Anisometrus, interbred before the Isthmus of Panama. The Isthmus of Panama was here, okay? And then arose 3.5 million years ago, they gradually adapted to different conditions and became different species. This is called speciation. Why? We have the same species of fish, Anisometrus here, but the channel of Panama was created and that isthmus of Panama was closed, right? So this population was separated into the Caribbean Sea and this in the Pacific Ocean, and that species evolved, changed, and formed a new species. As you can see, they are different now, but that took like 3.5 million years ago. Okay? So, we have another example of isolation of populations that can be caused by environmental changes, forming barriers such as mountain formation, changes in rivers, sea level change, climatic change, or plate movements. I'm repeating that because there is a question in the evaluation about that, okay? So, again, we have an species here. The isolated population is an isolated gene pool, since it doesn't breed with other populations. So we have the process of isolation because something happened. We have a population of this box. Something happened, maybe in the formation of a river, a formation of a mountain, and that species was separated in two different habitats now, okay? As you can see, these species are changing. So they change their color, they change their characteristics because they need to adapt to a new habitat. Maybe in the half of the other habitat we have more predators, so they need to adapt faster to they become green to hide under the vegetation. I don't know, maybe they become like this color because they need to hide under the rocks. And that's how a new species form, as you can see. They have changed totally their own conditions.